Hey you all, I am at the Udvar-Hazy Center of the National Air and Space Museum in Chantilly, Virginia. This is part 2. I'll be visiting the space exhibit, like the Discovery, and yeah, let's go. This is the Thunder Sea. As you can see, it was a bomber. This is an SA-2 Soviet missile. This Cobra was used in Vietnam and in Somalia in 1994. And this is a Huey. The first ones were built in the 50s. This is a Sea Knight from Vietnam. Wow. That was used for transport. This is incredible. This plane was at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. Squadrons of Helldivers like this plane were used in the Pacific Theater. The Supersonic was a military plane, but it could fly at supersonic speeds. An X-35 Joint Strike Fighter. Phantom II. This was the first true Soviet jet fighter. All of these along here are from Korea and Vietnam War eras. The Crusader was the first carrier-based jet to be able to fly over 1,000 miles an hour. This is the uniform of Captain Christopher Wilson, who was the inspiration for the movie Top Gun. And this is a Tomcat. Here's a bunch of scary aircraft machine guns. This is the American version of the Buzz Bomb. This is a Wunderwaffen. That's German for wonder weapons of the Nazis. It's a Kalis rocket-powered interceptor. Alright, entering the space exhibit. And this is the highlight, Discovery. It is the longest serving and the most successful space shuttle in history. It has flown 133 missions over 30 years. The last one in 2011. It has spent a total of a year in space and flown about 155 million miles. The textures on here are really interesting. Looks like they put a bunch of cardboard squares together. Throughout its missions, it broke a lot of barriers in terms of race and gender. It was also the first shuttle to dock at the International Space Station, and John Glenn went on this. This is the back of it with its huge turbine engines. This place is too much. This is a robotic arm that would go on the side of it to move and position the human astronauts. This is not a legit space artifact, but this is the mothership that they use for filming in Close Encounters from a Third Kind. This is pretty amazing. These are the flotation bags from Apollo 11 when they crashed back down into the Pacific. These are the actual bags. This is a quarantine facility used by NASA. And astronauts, after they go in space, have to stay in here for a little bit once they return to Earth. And this is the one used by the Apollo 11 astronauts after they returned from the moon. So Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, right in there. It's a heat shield from Gemini. This is a training couch that was used by Astro Senator John Glenn. That's James Irwin's spacesuit from Apollo 15. That's Buzz Aldrin's emergency flashlight from Apollo 11. This is Freedom 7 number 2. I've seen the original Freedom 7 that Alan Shepard did use to fly to space, but he was hoping he would do a long-term mission in this capsule, but it never happened. NASA launched this one in 1959. It was unmanned. It's called Big Joe. And it was only in the air for 13 minutes. This is the Gemini 7 capsule. It was manned by Frank Borman and James Lovell in 1965. Their mission was to show that humans could survive for 14 days in the weightlessness of space, and they did that, and they held the record until 1970. It's crazy though, because like they did not move at all. They were stuck in there in space for 14 days. Here's a part of the potato computers NASA had to use in the late 50s, early 60s. This is a prototype for Sojourner, which was the Mars rover in the late 90s. This is a Space Lab module. There's all sorts of satellites and stuff on the ceiling. Here's the missile control systems for the used floppy disks, which are way better than computerizing, just saying. That's an anti-satellite missile. The Americans developed these in case they wanted to shoot down a Soviet satellite. This is a replica of Goddard's first rocket. It was one of the first rocket designs in 1926. Apparently the Smithsonian has the real thing or parts of it. And this is the final rocket that Goddard tested in the 40s. I just want to remind you, we have thousands and thousands of these. That's what the inside of a Redstone missile looks like. This is where they do restoration work. In 1947, Clifford Evans and George Truman circled the world in that plane. Alright, so the space exhibit here is freaking amazing. Well worth it just to see that. If you didn't see my first video where I went through this whole big hangar, go check that out. If you like these types of videos, museums, roadside attractions, that sort of thing, then please subscribe and watch my other videos. Thanks for watching.